जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम राम Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 हरिनाम संकीर्तन की ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, text number 16. Karman anihasya bhavo bhavasyate Durgashrayothari bhayat palayanam Kalatmano yat pramadayutashramah Swatman rateh khidyati dhirvidamih Karmanyani-hasya bhavo bhavasyate Durgashrayothari bhayat palayanam Kalatmano yat pramadayutashramah Swatman rateh khidyati dhirvidamih Karmanyani-hasya bhavo bhavasyate Durgashrayothari bhayat palayanam Kalatmano yat pramadayutashramah Swatman rateh khidyati dhirvidamih Kalatmano yat pramadayutashramah Karmani, activities. Anihasya, of one who has no desire. Bhavaha, birth. Abhavasya, of one who is never born. Te, your. Durgashrayaha, taking shelter of the fort. Atha, thereafter. Aribhayat, out of fear of the enemies. Palayanam, flee. Kal Atmanaha, of he who is the controller of eternal time. Yat, that. Pramada ayuta, in the association of women. Ashramaha, household life. Swa Atman, in your own self. Ratehe, one who enjoys. Khidyanti, is disturbed. Dhihi, intelligence. Vidam, of the learned. Iha, in this world. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in futile work, although you are free from all desires. That you take birth, although you are unborn. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time. And that you enjoy household life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss, but some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory even to such pure devotees, and thus Uddhav asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man. But Uddhav had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas the impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do, either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as a son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and just like a householder take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who thus bewildered cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the Absolute Truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the Parabrahma conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad Gita 10.2, even the great sages, demigods, can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation for the Lord's activities is given by Grandfather Bhishmadev in Bhagavatam 1.9.16 as follows. Nanyasya karhichid rajan puman veda viditsitam yad vijijñāsaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. So we are going to read the next verse also because a verse was skipped last Sunday. So this also has a purport. Mantrishu mam va upahuya yatvam. I'll skip the reading of the verse, or should I read it? Okay. Akuntita khanda sadatma bodha prichhe prabhu mugda iva pramattas tanno mano moha yativa deva. Translation and purport. O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me for consultation as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered. And this act of yours bewilders me. Uddhav was never actually bewildered, and he says that all these contradictions appear to be bewildering. The whole discussion between Krishna and Uddhav was meant for the benefit of Maitreya, who was sitting nearby. The Lord used to call Uddhav for consultation when the city was attacked by Jarasandh and others, and when he executed great sacrifices as part of his routine royal work as Lord of Dwarka. The Lord has no past, present and future because he is unhampered by the influence of eternal time, and thus nothing is hidden from him. He is eternally self-intelligent. Therefore, his calling for Uddhav to give him enlightenment is certainly astonishing. All these actions of the Lord appear to be contradictory, although there is no contradiction in the routine activities of the Lord. Therefore, it is better to see him as they are and not attempt to explain them. Hare Krishna. Om Adhyanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guraha Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So speaking to glorify the Supreme Lord for the pleasure of the Lord and His devotees and for my own purification. So this chapter is entitled Vidur Approaches Maitreya. So just to give a context of what we are discussing is that Vidur, after having renounced his kingdom, when he was insulted by Duryodhan, while he was trying to advise Dhritarashtra to abandon his son, banish him, and to avoid the war which would eventually bring about the destruction of his own family, he quit and left for a pilgrimage which lasted for about 36 years. And when he came back to somewhere around Vrindavan on the banks of the Yamuna, he met Uddhav, who is the cousin brother of Lord Krishna. And his father and Krishna's father are brothers. Uddhav's father is Devabhaga, and Krishna's father is Vasudev. They are brothers, so they are cousin brothers, basically. And they are friends, childhood friends. They've grown up together. Uddhav was a great devotee, always meditating on Krishna, playing with Krishna dolls, and we have already read about that here. He was always very, very advanced, and so meeting Uddhav, who was way, way junior in age, but very, very advanced in Krishna consciousness, Vidur inquires from him about the well-being of the members of the Yadu dynasty. And Uddhav then breaks the news about the disappearance of all of them, including Lord Sri Krishna. And in that narration, Uddhav speaks about how he happened to meet Lord Krishna just before he departed. And he was not alone. He met with Krishna along with Maitreya Rishi. So 3 personalities were there in that very, very private and last moment discussion with the Lord. So it's the Lord Sri Krishna speaking to Uddhav and Maitreya. And of course Uddhav, he did not remain there to see what happened next, because the Lord had instructed him on Srimad Bhagavatam, and the intimate, confidential understanding of his own personality, of who he really was. And but Uddhav was not allowed to be there. And Maitreya also, we know that we see that how the Lord was looking at Uddhav and speaking, even though Maitreya Rishi was way, way senior in age and senior in knowledge. He was the godbrother of Vedavyas. He was the direct disciple of Parashar. And he was as good as a son to Parashar, which makes him and Vedavyas like brothers. And but still, because Uddhav has been very intimate with Krishna, and it is said that Krishna was looking at him rather than Maitreya Rishi and explaining all the very esoteric concepts. And as explained by Acharyas, that it's because of his intimacy with Uddhav. The Lord was more intimate with Uddhav than Maitreya. That's one of the explanations. But also it is explained that Maitreya Rishi, he was so much in ecstasy that he was bowed down, was bending down, and his eyes filled with tears, remembering the Supreme Lord's pastimes and also contemplating about the impending disappearance, that he was not in a position to look at the Lord. So how can you speak to someone who is full of emotion? Not sober. So the Lord chose to look at Uddhav and speak all those confidential things, which generally bewilders all the living beings, about who Krishna is. Who Krishna is. And where lies the secret for liberation and devotion, in understanding, tattvataha. So Uddhav, he left and from there, and he met eventually while traveling, and then he comes and meets Vidura. So, here we can see that Uddhav is expressing his bewilderment on the activities of the Lord, that he, being completely detached from anything material, the scriptures say that the supreme absolute truth has nothing to do. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyade natat samascha bhyadikascha drishyate parasya shaktir vividaiva shruyate swabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. So the supreme absolute truth has his energies to do work for him. He just has to desire and the things get done. But still we see that the supreme absolute truth, Lord Shri Krishna, now is engaged in seemingly so many activities. He is doing work. He is lifting the Govardhan hill. He is herding the cows in Vrindavan. And when he left Vrindavan for the protection of the Brajbasis and for killing Kansa, because had he been there in Vrindavan, all the demons would be coming to Vrindavan and harassing the poor, innocent, coward people of Braj. So he left Braj and went to Mathura, and he's doing all those activities of a Kshatriya when there is nothing for him to do. And there's a difference, when you work, or say when you go for a walk, or say when you go walking to your office. Say if your office is very close to your home and you're walking to your office. There's a difference when you're walking to your office and you're walking on Marine Drive just for having an exercise. Isn't there a difference? Yes, there is a difference. So similarly, when the Lord is performing activities and when we perform activities, there is a difference. Because the Lord is not obliged to do anything, but still He is doing it. He is doing it for His enjoyment, spiritual enjoyment. He has nothing material to gain from it. And it's bewildering. That why should anyone work when he doesn't need to work? Why should he do it? And Atmavat Manyate Jagat, you see, that all the living beings in this world, they tend to project or understand others as they are. That's natural. So Uddhav also, not being an exception, even though he's a great devotee, he's still a human being. And he is expressing his bewilderment that he himself was consulted by Krishna, that what should I do? Jarasandha is about to attack Mathura, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is also inviting me for the yajna. What should I do? And his inquiries were so genuine. Now some may say that, okay, Krishna has done all those things simply to bewilder the people, so that people may not understand his true identity, that he's the Supreme Lord and he's playing the role of an ordinary human being. But if that would be so, then his inquiries would not be genuine. And if inquiries from Uddhav or from all others, if they were not genuine, then the person who's been asked would not have the genuine, would not put the genuine effort to explain it to him and give an advice. Isn't it? When someone comes to you and says, Prabhuji, kya karna hai? And he's looking here and there, and you know that he's already made up his mind. No matter what you say, he's going to do what he wants to do. If somebody comes to you asking for an advice, and not just you, but in fact the Vedas also say that if you are a preceptor, you should still not advise your disciple if they are not asking you for an advice. You should not do it. So that means that Krishna was actually, genuinely in need of advice. And being convinced of that, Uddhav and others, like Yudhishthir, Nakul, including Nakul and Sahadev and Arjun, all of them, all those even juniors to him in age and in all aspects, have actually been consulted and they've actually advised Krishna. And that's bewildering. That why should one who is the knower of past, present and future, one who knows what every living being in this universe has done in his past lives, in every manvantar, in every yugantara, every resolve that the living entity has made since time immemorial. He keeps a note of everything, and still he feels the need to consult ordinary living beings as to what should be the course of action. And has had, what to speak about his wives, 16,108 wives he has kept. And we know that even today people criticize, there are some ignorant people who criticize the Lord for being lusty. Oh, how can someone keep so many wives? Is this your God? You know, we've heard of debates when they say that, what is this? Okay. You know, some kind of thing. But, so, therefore, you know, we can see that general tendency is to keep, is to enjoy our senses. What other reason could be there? But still the Lord has kept them and is still detached. And the proof is here. He left it. He was sitting. At the end of it all, he came to the banks of the sea and taking shelter, taking a little sip of holy water, sitting under this tree, banyan tree, and then keeping his right feet over his left knee, and apparently smiling, but in deep contemplation. Uddhav saw him in that avatar, where he was completely at ease, was not distressed, having lost everything. All his family members were gone, his wives were gone, everyone was gone. So therefore, the Lord, in order to not just dispel his own illusions, but also the illusions of the people of this world, is expressing that, or reflecting, or you know, vocalizing the innate doubts of the people in general. And therefore he's saying that these things are very bewildering. So Lord Sri Krishna, he actually, because one may ask that how come Uddhav is still living when everyone is dead? Because as we know that the Lord had accomplished his mission. He had done what he had come to do. Now it was time for him to wind up. And therefore now he had to find a way to leave this world himself, and also to pack off his associates who had also come to assist him. Some of them who had come from the spiritual world, his eternal associates, and many of them were also demigods who belonged here in this material world. So how would he dispatch them to their respective positions? So therefore he arranged for the curse of the rishis. Whom we know, we've heard that how when the rishis, maharishis, Narada, Asita, Deval, and all those great rishis had come to Dwarka, the children of the Yadus were playfully approaching them, and one of them had disguised themselves as a woman and approached the rishis and said, what do you think? This pregnant woman, the child is going to be a boy or a girl, and the Maharishis cursed them, that whatever will be born will be the cause of the death or the destruction of your dynasty. And then when they removed that cloth which they had disguised themselves as, it came out in the form of an iron club or an iron ball or something, and they go to Ugrasen, and Ugrasen arranges to get it completely ground up and then thrown into the ocean, but then that again gets swept on the shore and comes and grows into, some kind of grass or something which is used as weapons by the Yadus to fight amongst themselves. Which also goes to show that you cannot avoid your destiny. No matter how much Ugrasen tried to avoid that destiny of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, but they could not, they will not, they cannot, if that is the will of the Lord. Avashyam anubhoktavyam kritam karma shubhashubham na bhokte kshiyate karma kalpakoti shatairapi. Avashyam anubhoktavyam. Definitely, without an iota of doubt, everyone will have to experience the results of their action. Kritam karma shubha shubham. Whether it is good or bad, you have to. And especially when it is the desire of the Lord. So the Maharshis cursed the Yadus, the own family members, when actually it is an offense to curse a devotee. And then in this episode it is explained that one should not criticize the Yadus, the children, because they had not done it on purpose. It was the will of the Lord. They were very playful. They were actually very respectful to the Brahminical order. Lord Sri Krishna had told them also previously that always respect the devotees. Vipram kritaghasi api na druyata mamaka dhantam bahushabantam va namaskuruti nityashaha. Even if a devotee, he gets angry, he curses you, he beats you, but still you fold your hands and salute them. But still, somehow, by the will of the Lord, they offended them. So they are not to be blamed. And also, the rishis cursed the family of Krishna. They also cannot be blamed because they understood that the Lord wanted them to be cursed so that they could live. So they, fulfilling the desire of the Lord, they went about cursing the Lord's family, the devotees. And the proof that it was not the curse actually which brought about the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, because the Lord can avoid any kind of curses. Curses do not affect the Lord's devotees. Is that Uddhav is still living. Because the only people exempted from the curse, the Brahmin's curse, were the children, the ladies, old people. I mean, may not be the children, but the ladies and the old people were saved. They were the only people. So there was nobody to carry the lineage forward. So the ladies and the old people were the only people who were saved. And rest, everyone was killed. The only exception was Uddhav. Now, how come Uddhav was saved? Was he not a Yadu? No, he was a Yadu. And in fact, he was not just a Yadu, he was actually the protector of the commanders of the army of Krishna. He was the greatest. Uddhav means one who is like Utsav, Uddhav, means one of the greatest warriors. Now we speak about Uddhav. Uddhav is more known as a devotee, but what we do not know, and of course today people know the word Uddhav from a politician, yeah. I was speaking this to somebody and somebody said, Acha, Uddhav ka ye matlab hai? Oh, I never knew. I never knew Uddhav was such a great personality in the Bhagavad. So, this Uddhav is known as great devotee, but actually he was a great Kshatriya, he was a great warrior. He was the topmost, he was the greatest warrior, who was the protector of the commanders of the army of Krishna. And it's such a amazing combination, to be a warrior and to be a devotee. Because what happens when you are a warrior? You have to deal with blood and gore and anger and passion. How can a Kshatriya fight without passion? And that's the proof that a devotee can surpass his swabhava, his nature, his inborn nature. And Uddhav, we can see, is an example. It's very difficult to overcome one's swabhava. But by practice of devotion, Uddhav, by his devotion to Krishna, he was able to surpass that nature of his. Like for example, recently I went to Kumbh Mela, for which I had no plans to go, but a devotee approached me and said that, Prabhu, gaadi nikal raha hu, aap aoge kya? I said, really? Okay, let's do it, fine. So, theek hai. Sat in the car and we drove all the way to Prayag, non-stop. And, and so every time, because he was in the police, working in the police, so every time somebody would cross the path, cut his path, or somebody would cut him in the line and for petrol or whatever, like he would get wild and he would, just scream out swear words. The swear words which I had heard in my college days and probably even used, everything was revised. Everything. And I was thinking in my mind, my Lord, I mean, I didn't know that he had such a great vocabulary, It's literally, because when you're angry, you may think of these things, but then you don't speak it out. But he was actually just all out. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God. And he's also saying, हमारे गुरु बैठे हैं, वरना मैं बाहर निकल के तुझे. I'm thinking, hey, boy, stop it. You're swearing at him, but I'm also getting to hear that. Yeah. Stop it. And every time, oh Prabhu, and oh Prabhu, come to the temple and they're like, oh Prabhu. And then you go out and then you see another form of this person. And I was thinking, how is that possible? But then that's what it is. Because what do police do? How do they spend their time? And with whom do they spend their time? With pickpocketers, drug addicts, smugglers, and offenders basically, criminals. And you deal with them day in and day out, and they do not understand sweet talk. You have to speak to them in that language. You have to threaten them, you have to bully them, to control them. So naturally, when being with these people, you become like them to some extent. At least you pick up some mannerisms like them. It's natural. And I was thinking, well, that's okay. He's doing his duty. You can't blame him. It's natural when you are in that work. It's easy for us. We are in the temple and Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. But then when you are outside and you are exposed to such negative energies, you tend to pick that up. And that the occupation demands that you be like that. You be like them to control them. And here we can see Uddhav also being a Kshatriya, being a warrior. Like a police, is topmost order is like a British term. So, and that's why even it is explained that when Vidur and Uddhav met, they sat and spoke throughout the night. And how the night went by, they did not realize. They were so much absorbed in Krishna Katha that they had forgotten about sleeping. That's another thing. When I was driving, 5:30 we left from here. We reached at 4 o'clock in the morning in the border of Maharashtra. And he drove continuously without any break. In the night, it was inconceivable for me. How can someone drive without sleeping in the night? I thought, how can you do it? He said, हमारा night duty रहता है प्रभु. Habit है, practice है. Yeah, and that was how he was trained. Because in the daytime I saw him driving, he would travel at 80, 70. And in the night time he would go to 110, 120. He was at full form in the night. Surprising, I thought, how is that possible? And also here we can see Uddhav, being a Kshatriya, they would have to do this night duties. They are warriors, protectors, security people, that's what they do. They don't think about sleep and all. Then it's duty work. They have to protect. Sometimes they will have to stay guard. So Kshatriyas can do it. So not just because of their Kshatriya qualities, but also because of their being devotees and ability to, as it is explained, Pibantam tvam mukham bhojam achyudam harikathamritam. Parikshit Maharaj says that I have also forgotten thirst and hunger because I am actually feasting and I am drinking. Pibantam tvam mukham bhojam, the sweet nectarian pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna through your lotus mouth. That is satisfying me. And if the Amrita, Kathamritam, can put an end to the cycle of birth and death, then what to speak of the miseries of thirst and hunger and sleep? It's nothing. Go on, go on. So that way Uddhav is enjoying that transcendental discussion with Vidur that both of them forgot and the night went off just like that. And in the morning, Uddhav gets up and he leaves for Badrinath. So, Krishna has spoken, has chosen Uddhav for receiving the knowledge of Bhagavatam. Because in those days, they did not have MP3 players, they did not have Vedabase, They did not have YouTube and, where people could be recorded and archived. So today, if we want to research Srila Prabhupada, we can go to Vedavis. We can go to archives to see how Prabhupada conducted his ways. What are his teachings? But in those days, they had nothing. Yes. So naturally, what was the way how Krishna could preserve the knowledge about his existence, about his appearance? So therefore, Uddhav is a human archive. Maitreya and all these great devotees are human archives, who within their hearts have carried the memories and the teachings of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, he prepared Uddhav. He told Uddhav that you are the God, you are my eternal associate, but you are existing in this world also in the form of the Vasu. And you have, in that incarnation, prayed to me for service. You had no material desires. You performed the yajna, where generally people perform all these yajnas for some material purpose, but you performed it simply to please me. And therefore, as a result of that service, I am drawn to you. And you are meeting me at this time because you have no motive save and except service to me. And in the past, I advised Brahma. I gave him the knowledge of Bhagavatam. And today, I want to give the same to you. So please, you, Uddhav, go to Badrinath, where I could not go in this incarnation. The Lord had gone to many other places, but he had not gone to Badrinath apparently. But he was present there in the form of his incarnation of Naranarayana. But he wanted Uddhav to go and give the message of Lord Sri Krishna to those devotees who are suffering in separation of the Lord. Just yesterday I was in the ashram and devotees were saying, "Arey, प्रभु जी सेवा करते हो ना, तो सेवा करने से भगवान आकर्षित होते हैं, आपको भगवान का संग मिलता है." But actually it is not always like that. सेवा करने से भगवान दूर हो जाते हैं. That's why we call service and separation. Our whole philosophy is about service and separation. And therefore Uddhava is telling, previously you gave Brahma the knowledge of Bhagavatam, and what you told him to do? You told him to create the universe. So now Brahma is stuck. You see, 311 trillion 40 billion years, he has to live here, create the universe every day, and arrange for billions and billions of souls to take birth, go through dharma, artha, kama, moksha, finally to get purified, to get bhakti and go back to the spiritual world. As he packs people, all the living entities back to Vaikuntha, and he has to be here. And 50 years of his life has gone by, and another 311 trillion 40 billion years divided by 2 of his life still remains. He's still here, doing that thankless task of living in separation of the Lord, fulfilling the desire of the Lord. So Uddhav is again afraid that, oh Lord, you have given the knowledge of Bhagavatam to Brahma and you have told him to stay back. You are giving me also knowledge of Bhagavatam. I hope you don't tell me to stay back, because I want to come with you. You are leaving this planet. I also want to come with you. I want to be in your association. So the Lord assured him that, I assure you that this is your last birth. You won't have to take birth again. However, in this birth, there is still some service left to do. So go to Badrinath. And rest assured, Uddhav got that responsibility to stay back. It was a stay back party. Stay back, we have yatras go. Only difference is here, devotees are happy to stay back. But Uddhav was not very happy to stay back. He was not happy, he was. But still he was happy to serve. And Acharya's comment here, that Prabhupada also says that this pastime highlights the finer imperfections that may creep into the service of the devotees. And what is that? As it is explained in the 9th canto, said, Mat sevaya pratitam te salokyadi chatushtayam nechanti sevaya apurnaha kimanyat kala viplutam. When we are serving, we may start expecting some reward for what we have done. we become attached. Either we are ignorant, or if we have some knowledge and we begin our service, but we are doing our service with some expectations. There is some self-interest in what we are doing, even though we are apparently serving the Lord by way of giving a class, or maybe mopping the floor, or doing some management, or we're trying to exert our authority, or some self-interest is there. So the Shastra says that here we can see that up to the point of even being in the association of the Lord, Salokyadi Chatushtayam, all the four kinds of liberation which is promised to a devotee, that also when a devotee gives up, when all he expects is simply to serve the Lord, that is the highest position. And here we can see that even that desire to be with the Lord was temporarily postponed by the Lord by engaging him in service. So these are the different obstacles: ignorance, or attachment to liberation, comforts, or even attachment to being in the association of the Lord. Chatushtayam, Sarupya, Salokya, Sarishti, Sanidhya, and then Sayujya obviously we do not accept in any case. That is not for devotees. So Uddhav was in that sense told to do this service. And he left to come and met Vidur, and Vidur inquires from him about what Krishna had instructed him. The Uddhav Gita, as we will read ahead, that Uddhav was also spoken Gita. We have Bhagavad Gita, we have Uddhav Gita. So Vidur asked Uddhav to tell him about that. He wanted to learn. But Uddhav, being very careful in following the etiquette, the protocol, he refused to give that knowledge, because that would mean he's taking a superior position of a guru, because Vidur is way elder to him in age, and he felt that she should not, because very close by was Maitreya Rishi. So as it is explained here in the purports, that Maryada Vyatikram, one should not speak to a superior, even though it is Krishna Katha. You should rather hear Krishna Katha from superiors. You should not try to even instruct Krishna Katha to your superiors. So he directed Vidur to go to Maitreya, because Maitreya has also heard that same conversation of Krishna. And we see eventually that Vidur then he leaves to go to the ashram of Maitreya and inquires from him. So these 4 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto till the 4th chapter, we see that there is this discussion of Vidur and Uddhav, and then finally later on then we'll see the discussion of Vidur and Maitreya in the forthcoming chapters. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavat Mahapurana ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.